It's been a long time. It's been 15 years since a Democrat was the governor of this state.
Right.
Why are you the Democrat for this job?
Well, you know, I don't think it really ought to be about a red team or blue team. Most people think leadership is about bringing people together to get things done.
Texas is faring pretty well in terms of the jobless rate compared to the rest of the country. What do you do specifically to build job growth?
Well, you know, I don't know about, you, but there's about 1 million people unemployed for the first time in the history of the state. That affects everybody. It also affects everybody when, well, according to one recent study, we're #1 in minimum wage jobs, but 31 and the percentage of our adults that have where the jobs require a college degree. What I can do is I can create a good business climate in the state, like I did in the city of Houston, which led to major metropolitan areas in job growth. I built businesses, I met payroll. We'll take advantage of the fact that we've always been for free enterprise in this state. But we need to create a solid foundation for the future by running state government well. Rick Perry almost doubled the payroll taxes on small businesses this year because they failed to plan ahead in the state budget and the unemployment insurance trust fund. That wouldn't happen when I was governor. We'd run it like a business. And we need to educate and train our citizens. Right now, in our public schools, they're learning to take multiple choice tests rather than learning critical thinking and reading and writing or vocational and technical education.
The budget deficit you mentioned.
Right.
We've reported it to be $18 billion. I know there's some disagreement as to what that number actually is. What do you do to fix it?
Well, you look under the hood. The first thing you do as governor to fix it is be candid with the people of Texas. Look, you have the Republican Speaker of the House, the Republican Chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, the Legislative Budget Board that's given briefings to state officials about the $18 billion budget hole. And Rick Perry, our current governor, doesn't seem to have a clue. We need somebody who has had business experience who can bring good business skills to state government and squeeze the value out of dollars. And that's what I did at the city of Houston.
So after you plan that, get that straightened in your mind there, what do you do? What do you cut? How do you choose?
I'll tell you what we did with the city of Houston when we're facing something when I came into office like that. You do it from the bottom up. You meet with the employees. If people are going to retire, then you don't just cut the budget by that amount, but you don't replace those people, and then you reallocate the work to make sure that the customer service gets done. You stop running government like a political patronage machine.
Now I ask you what you would cut to balance the budget. Can you promise an area that you will not cut to balance the budget in this?
Well, public safety ought to come first, okay? That's what we did within the city of Houston, and when we started trimming the sails, when we saw a recession coming about 20 months ago, but public safety was more or less off the table because that was something that was essential. That's why I'm going to put 1,000 new positions for police officers and deputy sheriffs all along the border. That's 1/10 of 1% of our budget. That's a high priority. You ought to fund your priorities first. And then comes public and higher education, because that's the engine of future growth in this state.
Public education leads right into my next question. What are the first three things that you do as governor for education to improve it here?
The bipartisan bill that Rick Perry vetoed that had the support of the business community, that was sponsored by a House Republican, to improve opportunities for pre-kindergarten education, programs that's been shown to work. He vetoed it, I'd sign it. And then we'll replicate programs such as what I've done in Houston, where we reach out and we bring dropouts back to school, enlist the community resources. It costs very little public money. It's not something we talked about, it's something we've done. It's grown every single year. In one school district alone, we brought back 8,000 kids. And then we need to make sure that there's a long-term plan for financing higher education. Look, if he deals with this budget crisis like they did in 2003, since then, college tuition has almost doubled for four-year universities. If it doubles again, the middle class is going to be priced out of state universities. That's not acceptable.
What about the violence along the border? You already mentioned sending more officers to the border. What else could you do to help solve that problem?
Well, first I'd shoot straight about it. You find on Rick Perry's website the outrageous claim that he's cut crime rates along the border in the unincorporated areas by 65%. That's not true. We put the real crime statistics on there. Crime has gone up, not a whole lot, but it's gone up. under Rick Perry. I wouldn't. He's been complaining about border security every time there's an election. But whether it be under President Obama or the 8 years under George W. Bush, he failed to get the federal resources that we need. That's why sheriffs representing 98% of border Texans, are supporting me for governor. I've had law enforcement reporting to me. We dropped the crime rates to the lowest level in decades. We have a detailed border security plan, and it all starts with not having National Guard who can arrest people. I mean, it's better that than nobody, but to have people who are deputy sheriffs and police working in the local communities, on the beat, patrolling, developing sources of information, people who know the residents, they know the terrain, people who can speak in 2 languages, working along the border, to make sure that the gang members and the narco traffickers know that things won't be safe for them on this side of the border.
How do you position Texas in the immigration reform that has been going on in this country? What do you do differently here?
Well, you know, I'm not going to start by giving running commentary on every federal issue, but it takes a bipartisan leadership. I think the governors from Texas to California, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, California, instead of being this partisan squabbling, ought to try to work together as a team, because we have some common issues, and this is a fast-growing part of the country. I think we need what's called something similar to federal impact aid when there's a military base, a formula to defray the cost so that it's not just a Texas border, it's a national border. And we need reality-based policies, obviously, that distinguish between somebody who's, you know, worked and paid taxes and kids are citizens on one hand, and somebody who's a gang member on the other.
Let's get to an issue that I know affects everyone. I know you have traffic in Houston.
Yes.
But we like to think, we do. We have traffic here in Austin, and we have some congestion problems. We need some relief.
Yes.
But we also know we have a lack of funding for this. What do you do to help us out?
Well, first, you know, you got to clean up the Texas Department of Transportation. People in Austin, the leadership here may know what happened. There was a regional transportation plan. Oh, it's contentious. Some people want more rails, some people want more roads. Nobody wants anything in their backyard and the like. And I, as governor, I won't meddle in the local decisions, but here's what happened. The Texas Department of Transportation was so preoccupied with the corrupt land grab known as a Trans-Texas Corridor that they forgot that people are most worried about how to get from where they live to where they work.
The national sentiment right now toward Democrats, it doesn't look that great as we head into the midterm elections here. I want to know, first of all, how you think that affects you here in Texas, and if that does affect you, how do you counteract it? Well,
you know, maybe I'm not a typical candidate. I've always, you know, I've not been a career politician. Was mayor of Houston for 6 years. We had people that are part of my campaign team, part of my administration, Republican, Democrat, Independent. People are looking for that. They're tired of the partisanship, to tell you the truth. If you want to know something that's really unpopular, it's those strident, partisan talking heads that never seem to try to find common ground. That's the style of leadership that I offer. Look, I mean, Texas, we're a great state. If we're going to divide the state into groups and play them off against each other, how are you going to govern?
And what do you think the main things are that you want Central Texas voters to remember about Bill White as they go to the polls?
Look, if you want somebody who's, you know, slick with a soundbite, maybe there's somebody else. Somebody, when I first ran for mayor, said my ears were too big for TV. But if you want somebody who will shoot straight and get things done, that will make state government work for you, that will be a good steward of tax dollars, and that will work hard every week to prepare Texans for jobs with a real future, then I need your help.
Thank you very much for talking with us.
Thank you.